Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
So welcome back to the Think Factory podcast, powered by OGC Solutions, and I'm your host, Chris Santomassimo from OGC Solutions, and I'm excited to be for another on-site podcast, second of the day, with Rachel McGrath, who is the CEO of Tower Products in Pennsylvania. So welcome to the podcast.
I'm excited to be here. I was a little jealous when Rick was on a couple months back.
That's true. He did. He got in early, let's say, so which was great. Yeah, and for anybody who's interested, that's Rick Principato, who was, I think, the founder of Tower back in the day, right?
Tower Products was founded by Rick's father, but
Okay.
at the time it was a cleaning chemicals company, and
Right.
He was the one who pioneered the focus in the print industry and made it into the wonderful company that I have the privilege of running now.
Fantastic, cool. Yeah, so Rick was on the podcast back, I think, at the Printing United show last October. So he recorded an episode right on the floor. Which was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Which was great.
I think so. And for anyone who is wondering, where was Rachel at that show? It was so soon after the acquisition. I closed on the acquisition of Tower at the end of August and then had my first child on September 22nd. So last year was a very big year for me.
A whirlwind year, for sure.
Yeah. And Rick, being the wonderful stand-up guy, and in addition to sharp businessman that he is, was kind enough to say, hey, we'll make it work leave-wise, and let me have some much-needed time with my daughter. And now here I'm back in the seat and ready to go.
Well, congratulations. So you packed a lot of stressful events into 2023, that's for sure. You didn't buy a new house or anything last year, hopefully.
No, but we are looking to buy a house now.
Well,
so
at least you delayed.
we might get it in 12 months.
Nice, good. Well, so I've known Tower for a long time, especially in my role with AGFA. But I'd love to. Well, I was saying to you before our chat today that I think more people in the printing industry know Tower than not know Tower. So, but it would be great to talk about your new entrance into the business and what Tower is today and what you hope it's going to be in the future, and just sort of reintroduce folks to Tower.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I will start with me personally and go from there into
Great
why
start.
I was drawn to Tower and where that means we're headed. I am an engineer by training. I have a bachelor's and master's degree from MIT, and I spent the first few years of my career working for Chevron. This is my best fun fact, but I did used to take a helicopter to work when I was the facility engineering manager of one of the floating offshore oil platforms.
Oh, very cool.
So whatever I do for the rest of my career, I'll be chasing that. I had the opportunity to go to Harvard and get my MBA after I'd been with Chevron for a few years, so I did that, and then I worked in innovation consulting, which meant looking at how to help our customers, some of whom were large chemical companies, think about big shifts that are happening in their industry. So when I had the opportunity to start looking for a business to buy, I knew that I wanted something that was technically complex and ideally something that involved some level of an innovation challenge, just to take advantage of those two pieces of my background.
Right.
And with Tower, I think I've really found that. Obviously, there's a lot of changes afoot in the print industry, and
That's an understatement, I think.
and the technical problems that Tower works on are just so interesting, and I've been learning so much and have so much to learn. I think it's something that will keep me busy for a long time
I bet.
to come. There were some pieces about the business that I was drawn to that were just really great on top of what excites me personally. And those were that we have this great sales force. They're mostly all former press operators, and in the midst of all this upheaval in the industry and all these changes and the big wave of retirements that's pulling a lot of the expertise out of the press room, we have a great group of people who were there ready to help with problems that arise. So we've got the chemicals, but a lot of what we're providing is the expertise that goes for how to use those chemicals to make your press run really, really well.
Well, and those folks are probably the ones experienced with how how to fix the issues that come up.
Yeah.
The complexities of how to run the press. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a really great value proposition and positions us well for a lot of the demographic shifts and technical shifts in the industry.
Right.
And with our dealer partners, I think the folks in offset are trying to push the capabilities of offset to keep up with the other technologies. And on the products that we do make for other technologies, you have the press room becoming more multimodal. Like you might have offset and flexo and digital and even screen all in the same press room, and you might have the same operators expected to know how to use all of those technologies. And so we're working to be there to help with all the challenges that come up across.
Well, those technologies couldn't be more different from one another.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I was literally at a company earlier today in the packaging space, and that's very much the same situation where they've got all those technologies in the same plant.
Yeah. So
although they focus on offset, though.
Even if you had somebody with the same amount of expertise, it's got to be wide rather than deep. You know. So.
Right.
So we're hoping to be there, ready to help with the challenges that come up because of that.
Yeah. And so, what would you say the percentage of your business is focused on the offset market as opposed to others?
We're still heavily concentrated in the offset. We've got growing presence in flexo, and we're really, really excited about that. It's growing super quickly, and we are debuting some of our first screen offerings now. You might see some rumblings on LinkedIn about some of those. We've been contract manufacturing some digital products, head cleaners and such for a little while. That's obviously subject to secrecy with our dealers.
Of course.
But for anyone who is looking at a provider for those, we would love to help you out with that, because what we're looking to do is shift our mix of products with the industry as it shifts.
Right.
And we need to grow some of those segments in order to do that.
You know, what's interesting to me is that a lot of people in or outside the industry want to characterize offset as dying off, and I think about it more as a pivot. Especially, I was reminded of it earlier today at this other company, because true, we're not printing as many newspapers or as big a newspaper as people would print before, and yes, there are certain commercial applications that are moving to digital, but offset is really still strong, especially in long run jobs and say packaging, for example, corrugated, markets like that really demand speed, long run capabilities, and while some of the digital products are pretty amazing, they still can't keep up with offset when you're doing those longer runs.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's single thousands of sheets per hour with a digital technology, and it's tens or even hundreds of thousands sometimes with offset.
Yeah, well, the latest and greatest I think comes from AGFA with the Orca speed set. That's 11,000 boards an hour.
There you go.
On digital. Yeah. So, but when you compare it to say, no, obviously it depends on what you're printing, but 18 to 20,000 an hour for an offset press.
Yeah. So if you have the quantity, then it's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when I say that I think the press rooms are becoming multimodal, a lot of what's happening is that you don't see people throwing away their offset press. It's not like they're moving it out to the back for the cats to live in. They're bringing these other technologies in, and at the same time, they're looking to expand the capabilities of what that can do, so that it's enabling their growth rather than just replacing equipment to stay stagnant.
Exactly. Yeah. But it also, just because if there is a press room that moves away from offset, I don't think it even indicates that offset is dying as much as their business mix has changed. Mm-hmm. So that's evolution, really.
Yeah.
In business.
Mm-hmm.
So changes are inevitable. Some people will be in offset forever. I have met some owners that are 100% offset. That's all they do, and they're comfortable with it because it's quick, it's reliable, it's they've invested in it.
Yeah, and that's saying we are going to be in this lane, and this is what we do, and this is what we're going to do well is a strategy. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, what else about the Tower Products business or print in general attracted you, to investing in it, frankly, to picking up a business that's in that segment? Besides the things you mentioned before about how excited you were and how it brought together your personal interest, was there something unique about Tower or about the industry that was a little bit interesting?
So we have multiple business models under one roof, and I liked the flexibility of that. So we have most people will be familiar with our Tower brand and our Tower branded products, but we do also, we do private labeling. So we manufacture some products for some of the biggest names in the industry, and that was both exciting and increased investor confidence that there was really a there there.
Yeah.
And then we also have a contract manufacturing model where we make items to a spec given to us by our customer.
Right.
And that's quite a good business for us as well. And we have a decent amount of capacity in our home facility here that we are looking to build to that capacity.
I gotcha.
With our offerings. So
right,
we've got plenty of space. Yeah.
You've got the capabilities, and it's just a matter of continuing to build organically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And with something like press room chemistry, it's a good business to be in. Like we make our dealer customers' products better. We make we solve problems for our customers, and they purchase in a really repeatable way. And we like to see that, and it is relatively easier to obtain financing when you have that kind of dynamic.
That's true. And we may have talked about this before a little bit, but the ability to solve problems comes from the background of your salespeople that have been in the space of their customer, having running the presses themselves. So many times they're the fixers or the problem solvers. Right?
Yeah, and I would say that mindset and that sort of ethos of solving problems works its way through from the sales team to everyone else. So there, I can't tell you the number of times per day somebody comes to my office with, this customer has this problem. I know exactly how we can solve it for them. Let me run with this. And usually I'm like, yes, please do that. Because I think the relationships that we've built are our best asset, and we've got to keep investing
right, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's like having a roving customer service force that can actually come up with the solutions.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. And having spent a lot of time around people in the press room, I know that once they find a partner that can solve the problems and keep them running, they don't leave very often because, they found their comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So where do you see the business? Either Tower's business, the print business, or together? What are you forecasting for the next, say, 12 to 24 months? And how does Tower fit into that forecast? Well,
so I think the share of materials printed on offset presses is in a slow decline. I think that is mostly from the decline of books and newspapers, and it's not that we're printing less package materials or things like that. So there's a right sizing of that part of the industry. We are looking to take the exciting offerings that we have in that segment and continue putting materials and guides out to help make it clear to customers which of our products are going to solve which problems. So you'll see a lot from us about, hey, we have product A, B, and C. This one is going to be better for solving this problem. This one is going to be better for solving this other problem.
Right.
And I think that will help customers do a little bit of self-troubleshooting, which will help them get faster answers, but we'll obviously always still be here to solve those problems person to person. We are looking for deeper partnerships with some of our dealer partners. I feel like we have the right to ask for more visits to more press rooms to help solve more problems.
Yeah, exactly.
So those partners can expect to be hearing from us more frequently. Mm-hmm. And we do have a little bit of a war chest put aside for growing and maybe making an acquisition or two, something like that, to help with some inorganic growth on top of what we're trying to achieve with what we've already got.
Fantastic. So something to bolt on and that would be complementary to what you do now.
Mm-hmm.
as you said before, you've got a lot of room for organic growth.
Yeah,
Right.
we do.
In a well-known, a company with a well-known brand.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts about expansion of the product line, or anything that you've seen in the future, or the forecasting of the economy, and how that's going to potentially impact your plans?
Well, so this year is an election year, obviously, in the news all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody tells me that election years are good years for the print industry.
Sure.
So
All aspects, really, right? Everything from yard signs to direct mail and everything else in between.
Yeah. So we are looking to take advantage of that, but also to have that, use that to build up a little bit of a war chest cash wise. So looking forward to that. Rick is going to stay with the business for the foreseeable future, driving account level customer relationships and also product development. And we have a whole roadmap of products that we're working on bringing out, some with some exciting functionality, such as foaming or not foaming, as
Right.
as the case may be.
Indicate,
Yeah. And like I said, we are launching some of our first offerings in screen printing as well. So
That's exciting. When are we going to see those?
some things. I think Screen Tech is our first product, and it is launched already. We put our first LinkedIn post up earlier this week.
That makes it official, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Where can folks see you in terms of conferences and some of the upcoming events in print?
We are going to be at Printing United in Chicago in September, and I think we'll also send at least one team member to Label Expo.
I think the fact that they overlap is a little bit of an accident this year. So
Yeah. So I think our emphasis is going to be on Label Expo Americas.
Yeah.
And then we will also send somebody to Printing United.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, as I said, kind of accidental, so
Yeah.
it happens sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So
One thing I'm really looking forward to, as I've started going to customer visits and things like that, I have really been enjoying how vibrant the print industry is. Like when you're not in the print industry, you have this impression of like it's printing and like the newspapers are dying and all that, and then you go to the offices of people in the printing industry, and it's all these like everything is these beautiful images that are up on walls, and it's so vibrant, and it's all because we're trying to showcase what the machines can do and stuff, and it's all like, well, bam, look at what we can do here. And
what's interesting about it is that yes, when you walk into an exhibit hall for print, you really feel how cool print is. I mean, it may sound like an old man thing, but I don't really think it is, because the disconnect that people have with print is because they don't appreciate that so many things that you use every day or that you see every day
are printed.
Correct. Yeah. And especially when it comes to the two areas that I think are great examples of that are packaging and direct mail, because they have such packaging in particular, it has such an impact on somebody's view of a brand. An embellished box, for example, for an iPhone, yes, more expensive, but it conveys that value as compared to things that you pack food in, for example. But even the appearance is important.
And I think that packaging, because it is more or less the customer experience of the product for things that are sold online, is going to become more and more important, because other than the product itself, if people aren't going to the store to buy something, or they aren't interacting with a person on your website or things like that, having packaging that feels nice and looks nice conveys the quality and effort that's put into the product and is your customer experience.
100%. Yeah, and to your point, even if it's an online purchase, you're still going to expect some kind of value statement when you receive it. And if it comes in a cheap package, then you think, well, maybe I didn't get what I paid for, right?
Yeah.
Or even though some people might order groceries and have them delivered, we all go to the grocery store or a grocery store. The branded conveyance is important, I think, there too. But people talk about, well, newspapers are digital, but you can't digitize food packaging. I mean, no. Right? It's got to be there. So that's where I think I wish, and I hope that the Alliance and others are doing some work on this to try and really convey to younger people, people coming out of college as engineers or business people, that there's a ton of opportunity. It's just different. There's different pockets of it. There's consolidation and all those things, but there's a ton of really interesting things to do in print. No matter what side of the spectrum you're on in terms of where you like to spend your time. Well, which is why you joined, I suppose, right? There's definitely opportunities for sure. And and what I was saying about packaging and direct mail, those are those are things that you often throw out first. Like if you buy a food product, obviously you take it out of the box or the container and you discard the wrapping, but you eat the food. Well, maybe you don't realize what went into printing that package. It's not a cheap or easy endeavor to get it just right. So, maybe a couple of people hear this podcast and realize there's a lot going on in print that's very cool.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's another thing I didn't realize until I was in the industry is the regulations surrounding food packaging. We have some FOGRA approved products for food packaging printing, and I, as a person who orders takeout and buys stuff at the grocery store, didn't realize the set of rules that are in place for what can be used on the packaging that food comes in, and it's nice that those regulations are in place now that I know about them.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess some of them, I'm not the one to say whether they're excessive or not, but your food wouldn't taste all that great if you could use just any kind of ink or any kind of cleaners on the presses. So yeah, it makes a big difference for sure. But that's what that's the problems you guys solve at the end of the day. So
yeah.
Well, good stuff, and I'm glad to hear your experience has been pretty good, and so far so good, and looks like 24 is going to be a watershed year potentially for you.
Hoping so.
Fantastic. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to get reintroduced to Tower, especially with you at the helm now. So, congratulations on acquiring the company, and great. Hope you have great luck in 2024 and beyond.
Thanks so much.
So this is Chris Santomassimo from OGC Solutions, host of the Think Factory podcast, signing off for today, and we'll see you next time.